Coming up in today's newscast, Lieutenant General Aviv Kochavi begins his role as the IDF's 22nd Chief of Staff. The Mayor of Gdansk, Poland, known for fighting against xenophobia and intolerance, is murdered. And finally, international furniture staple IKEA announces plans for a new store in Tel Aviv. Lieutenant General Aviv Kochavi officially took over as the next IDF Chief of Staff on Tuesday morning at a ceremony at the IDF's IKEA military headquarters in Tel Aviv. Kochavi replaces outgoing Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot, who ended his 4-year term in the position yesterday, and the ceremony was attended by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who together with Kochavi's wife pinned the rank of Lieutenant General on the IDF's 22nd and newest chief. Then, after the swearing-in ceremony, Kochavi took the opportunity to thank and salute his predecessor, General Eisenkot. And Eisenkot, who is hanging up his uniform after 40 years of service, returned the compliment, saying at the ceremony that he is leaving behind a competent, prepared, and powerful army that bolsters its strength with wisdom and determination. He added that Kochavi is a commander with the strength and abilities of leadership and command. Netanyahu then used the podium to lay out the challenges before Kochavi, outlining also the threats facing Israel, mainly Iran. He also took the opportunity to send the Islamic Republic a message, saying he advises them to get out of Syria fast because he will continue the Israeli policy of attacking as promised and as we have done without fear and without interruption. Finally, the Prime Minister thanked outgoing Chief Eisenkot as well, quipping that maybe he would go on a backpacking trip to South America, as is customary for young Israelis after completing their army service. As for Kochavi, though, before officially beginning in his role, he'll now head to Jerusalem to pay his respects to the National Hall of Remembrance at Mount Herzl. He'll visit the Western Wall, and then he'll meet with President Rivlin before returning to his office in Tel Aviv. Now, as newly sworn-in IDF Chief of Staff Aviv Kochavi steps into his role, Iran, his top line item, is already testing his leadership. In spite of the United States' criticisms, the Islamic Iranian regime has just launched one of its 2 scheduled satellites into space. Unfortunately for Iran, though, according to the Iranian Minister of Communications and Information Technology, the Payam satellite did not make it into orbit. Minister Jaromi explained that the rocket simply didn't gain enough speed to reach its desired altitude, though he didn't explain on why the rocket failed. Regardless, the second satellite, Dosti, is still scheduled for launch as planned, and the Iranian Space Agency is still reportedly intent on creating a precise network of imaging satellites by 2025. But it's precisely for this reason that at least the United States and Israel are so concerned. Though Dosti and Payam in Persian mean friendship and message, respectively, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has previously remarked that the White House regards this program as related to improving ballistic missile capabilities, which would be in direct violation of United Nations Security Council resolutions and the JCPOA nuclear deal. Iran continues to claim that they have no intention of obtaining nuclear weapons, however, with Ayatollah Khamenei instead even lashing out at American officials, calling them first-class idiots. Still, judging by the fact that Netanyahu and Trump have persistently called out Iranian aggression in the region, with the Israeli premier also saying Tuesday morning that they always lie, it doesn't look like they're taking Tehran at their word. Now, to continue discussing the IDF's new Chief of Staff is the former Chief of IDF Intelligence and the Director of the Israel Institute for National Security Studies, Major General Amos Yadlin. Major General, thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening.
All right, so first of all, let's just start with Lieutenant General Kochavi and his new role, and what do you think of that appointment? Do you think that he's the best man for the job? And we'll go from there.
He's excellent man for the job. I just coming from the ceremony. In the same room, he succeeded me as Chief of Intelligence. And the career he have done, all the stops, are the best preparation for this job. He was commander of brigade in a war. He was the head of operation. He was the head of intelligence. He was the head of the Northern Command, which is the most important command or front of Israel today.
More than the Southern Command?
Yes. Hezbollah, Iran, and Syria. And in a way, the Russian presence make this front as the first and most important and dangerous to Israel. And then the deputy. So he was prepared for the job. Beside the fact that he is one of the most intelligent, have the capability to learn and to lead. So I think the people of Israel got the best commander for the IDF.
So, okay, why then do you think it has been reported that Prime Minister Netanyahu's apparent first choice was Eyal Zamir? and not Mr. Kochavi.
This is gossips that I'm not getting into.
You don't think? I mean, just in terms of qualifications, do you think Eyal Zamir would have also been a qualified candidate, or?
There were 4 candidates, all of them very good officers. But if you look at the record, if you look at what they have done, Eyal Zamir is an excellent officer, but he wasn't in the general staff in an important job like head of intelligence or deputy. So he need more to learn how to be the best, the number 1 soldier in Israel. And Aviv Kochavi, very much like Yair Golan, were the deputy. They did the Northern Command, which is the most important command. So career-wise, both of them were more qualified, and I'm very glad that Aviv was selected.
Okay, so going back to some of the challenges that you mentioned earlier, let's talk about those challenges and how best to kind of address them. So first of all, you mentioned the north, and we have Hezbollah and Iran. Taking over from Gadi Eisenkot, we have, finishing up with Operation Northern Shield, but then we also have, the satellites that Iran is launching, as you said, Russian presence in Syria. How do you think he needs to best address that, especially at the beginning when he needs to kind of set the tone for his 4-year term?
Yeah, I think that when Gadi entered the job, 2015, Iran nuclear issue was in a way off the table because of the JCPOA. Because President Trump withdrew from the deal, Israel is in a different position because the ball is now in the Iranian court, and assume that they can withdraw from the deal as well and start enriching uranium again. And then they will cross Israel red lines. So General Kochavi have to prepare the IDF for a future, a possibility of acting against Iran nuclear arm. On the other hand, what General Eisenkot have done, fighting the conventional forces of Iran in Syria, basically attack Iranians in Syria directly and stop the Iranian entrenchment in Syria. However, the Iranians haven't stopped. As we saw after May 18, and in the fall, when there was the incident with the Russian airplane, this shows you that the Iranians continue to ship advanced weapons to Syria.
So again, how do you think that the operational kind of policy should be different now with Kochavi in charge?
There are 3 risks when you attack Iranians in Syria. There is the risk of losing airplanes when you are doing it. There is the risk of somehow friction with the Russians. And there is the risk of escalation. All the 3 risks are now going up. So General Kochavi will have to look at it again from a strategic operational point of view and justify or readjust the campaign between the wars, which General Eisenkot have done kind of so efficiently.
Sure.
But you don't have to think that what have succeeded in the past. I'm saying what Israel achieved against Iran in 2018 is a big win. But it's only the first game in NBA finals. Sometimes we have 4 games, sometimes we have 7 games. So 2019 is a new ball game.
Okay, so speaking again then of the new ball game, let's move away a little bit from the north, and we'll talk about the IDF kind of as a whole. Earlier in the year, we had the Ombudsman, Major General Brick, I believe, who said that the IDF is not as prepared as it needs to be for the northern front and indeed also in the southern front. How do you think that needs to be addressed?
I think what General Brick have said is not about the readiness of the IDF in whole. The IDF has an excellent intelligence. I know it from first look and touch. It's the best air force in the world. And what Brick talked about, he talked about the army, about the land forces.
Okay.
However, even there, he was, I think, missed the target. Because what General Eisenkot have done is doubled the budget of the land forces. Inventory went up, training went up, doctrine was discussed, operational plan were prepared. So you can always be better. But as an Israeli citizen who is now 8 years after retirement, I trust the land force as I trust the Air Force. And I heard today from General Eisenkot, I heard it from the special committees that look at it, led by General Avi Mizrahi. I heard from the member of the Knesset, Omer Bar-Lev, that it's much better than General Speak have spoken. However, General Kochavi will have to rediscuss the land forces and their role in the future war. What kind of maneuver they're gonna do, where in Gaza, where in Lebanon. This is a very important task that's still ahead of him.
All right, well, in the meantime, we'll just issue our congratulations to Major General Kochavi, Lieutenant General Kochavi, I keep forgetting, I'm sorry. Major General Yadlin, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas is set to take leadership of the Group of 77, or G77, and China today, a bloc made up of 134 United Nations member states. He just arrived in New York to assume the new leadership role, succeeding Egypt, and is scheduled to address the 193-member General Assembly, which elected the State of Palestine last year to head the bloc. The United States and Israel, however, opposed the measure. As head of the group, Palestine, which is currently a non-member observer state, will be able to act as a member state and exercise its rights as a member of the bloc. The G77 was first established in 1964 to advance the economic interests of developing countries, but it's since grown to become a massive coalition, often voting in unison at the UN, and the G77 has recognized Palestine as a member state since 1976. Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres met with the PA president and reiterated his support for a two-state solution, saying that this was the only way to achieve peace in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. According to the PA's official news agency Wafa, in the meeting, Abbas also stressed the need to implement the resolutions of the UN General Assembly and Security Council, including in particular Resolution 2334, and providing international protection for the Palestinian people. Despite the ongoing pressures of potential indictments and now national elections, the show, i.e. Israel's government, must go on. As such, the Prime Minister's office has just announced 3 major trips abroad starting in the coming weeks to Switzerland, Chad, and the United States. First, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu will arrive in Davos, Switzerland for the annual World Economic Forum, and as usual, he'll deliver a speech to the international conference, and he'll likely meet with several world leaders on the side. But then, unlike in previous years, Netanyahu is scheduled to return home pretty much right away, rather than staying overnight. Next, as a follow-up to the surprise visit to Israel in November by Chadian President Idris Deby, Netanyahu is expected to visit N'Djamena to announce the formal renewal of diplomatic relations between the two nations. And finally, the Prime Minister's next trip is currently scheduled for mid to late March, where he's expected to be received at the annual AIPAC Policy Conference in Washington, D.C. He'll also most likely be greeted afterwards as a guest of honor at the White House, where, according to Ynet, President Trump will potentially offer his official presidential support for Netanyahu's re-election in April. Tragedy struck Poland this week as Paweł Adamowicz, the mayor of Gdansk, passed away Monday, just a day after he was stabbed on stage at a charity event. Adamowicz was 53 years old and had served as the mayor of Gdansk since 1998.
Informacja, którą przekazali lekarze, jest taka, że przed niedługim czasem pan prezydent zmarł. Nie udało się wygrać z tym wszystkim, co go dotknęło. Wieczny odpoczynek racz mu dać, Panie.
The attack occurred at a charity event on Sunday intended for collecting funding for medical equipment for Polish hospitals. And Adamowicz, who, in addition to being mayor, was also a lifelong lawyer and social activist, was on stage to show his support. It was then that the attacker ran on stage and stabbed Adamowicz with a knife multiple times. He then remained on stage waving the knife in the air proudly until being arrested moments later. The suspect is also thought to potentially be mentally ill, though it was later revealed that he'd been arrested for multiple offenses before as well and had spent 5 years in prison. In fact, while on stage, he even allegedly announced how he blames the mayor's former party, Civic Platform, for his incarceration. The biggest shocks in this story have come in waves, though, starting with the fact that no security or police could be seen in the area before or immediately after the attack, and onlookers were too stunned to react as well. Then, of course, the next shock was the news of the mayor's death. But the latest shock is in what Mayor Adamowicz's death symbolizes with regards to the political divide in Poland.
Ja myślę, że może być różnie, dlatego że w ludziach jest bardzo dużo nienawiści, takich różnic poglądowych, co jest w tej sytuacji, w takiej tragedii powinno być to wszystko otoczone ciszą teraz, wielką ciszą i refleksją nad tym wszystkim, co się stało.
Ja aż się boję, co teraz się wydarzy na scenie politycznej w Gdańsku. Nie mam pojęcia. Na pewno nasze młode pokolenie bardzo będzie się udzielać. Widać to chociażby po social mediach, jak wszyscy reagują, jak wszyscy coś mówią, a wszyscy starają się wesprzeć nawzajem.
Adamowicz was a longtime advocate for peace and was hailed by many rights organizations as one of the strongest voices against xenophobia and right-wing extremism. And in the Jewish community, he was also hailed as, quote, a true friend who spoke loudly and clearly against anti-Semitism in Poland, end quote. In fact, World Jewish Congress President Ron Lauder said that his murder was an attack on the very value of tolerance. And he was even among the few vocal critics of the controversial Polish Holocaust law in Poland, which banned blaming Poland for Nazi actions during World War II. Mayor Adamowicz called it idiotic and evil. Well, at the very least, Adamowicz's message of tolerance was loud and clear to his many supporters, even in death.
I chcę Ci dzisiaj, kochany Pawle, obiecać w imieniu nas wszystkich, gdańszczan, Polaków i Europejczyków, że dla Ciebie i dla nas wszystkich obronimy nasz Gdańsk, naszą Polskę i naszą Europę przed nienawiścią i pogardą. Przyrzekamy Ci to. Żegnaj.
Once again, Women's March co-president Tamika Mallory was confronted with her ties to anti-Semitic Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, and once again she failed to condemn Farrakhan's hateful rhetoric or distance herself and the movement from accusations of anti-Semitism and exclusion. In fact, following this latest exchange on The View on Monday, Mallory's comments may end up just putting more fuel on the fire. When Mallory and another co-president of the Women's March, Bob Bland, appeared on The View to discuss the recent controversies and issues related to the march, View co-hosts Meghan McCain and Sunny Hostin began looking for and pointing out some hard truths. First, Hostin challenged Mallory's portrayal of Farrakhan as the greatest of all time in a Facebook post from 2017. Mallory responded that she was referring to Farrakhan in this light with respect to his activism in the black community, and not regarding his anti-Semitic comments. But when pressed to specifically condemn and reject Farrakhan's racist rhetoric against Jews, Bland said that she does. Mallory would not do the same. Instead, she said that she disagrees with many of Farrakhan's statements and that, quote, it's not my language, end quote.
I don't speak for Jewish people, but I think I'm just confused. These remarks are, I mean, it goes on death to Israel over and over again.
We did not make those remarks.
We did not make
You can't
But
put
you're
place me-
associating with a man
And
who
so
does
what
publicly.
What I will say to you is that I don't agree with many of Minister Farrakhan's statements.
Specifically about Jewish people.
As I said, I don't agree with many of Minister Farrakhan's statements.
Do you condemn them?
I don't agree with these statements. At the end of the day...
You won't condemn it.
No. To be very clear, it's not my language. It's not the way that I speak. It is not how I organize.
But the failure to clearly denounce the hateful comments sparked some notable anger in The View's host, who then rejected giving legitimacy to the march on her end, as long as the march's leaders could not stand up for all women. Mallory and Bland were then further grilled for rejecting or excluding women from conservative and Jewish groups from their marches. Both Bland and Mallory again rejected this as an outright lie, but could not point to any hard evidence towards the contrary. Eurovision 2019 is around the corner, and everyone here in Israel is really excited, and I don't blame them. I'm excited too. The biggest music event of the year is only a few months away, but the organizers are still fixing all the details around it. And in the latest news, we found out that the famous Israeli singer Omer Adam declined the offer to perform as the opening act for the finale because he doesn't work on Shabbat. And LTV's Joy Gavijon is here with more.
Thanks, Aaron. Yes, these are some disappointing news, but the thing is that the singer has his reasons. Now, before I go on, in case someone hasn't heard about Omer Adam before, Adam is one of the most famous and successful pop Mizrahi singers in Israel right now. He's only 25 years old, and he had the biggest selling song in Israel for the period 2017-2018, that is counting from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah.
All right, so basically for the year 5778 in the Hebrew calendar.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, so this is impressive. You know, what song was it, by the way?
Well, I won't sing it if that's what you were
That's too bad.
expecting. No, I don't think that anyone would enjoy that. But the name of the song was Shnei Meshugaim, or Two Crazy People, and it was a total hit. Now, going back to Eurovision, an interesting fact is that with this song, he sold even more than Toy, the Eurovision 2018 winning song by your loved Neta Varsilai.
Wow. And even then, he declined to offer to play in Eurovision 2019. It seems to me, and to many Israelis, I would imagine that he would have been the perfect fit for the gig.
Yes, I mean, here in Israel, he gathers really, really big crowds, even abroad. But this is an opportunity for an incredible international audience. And let's not forget about the exposure. The contest is watched by millions all over Europe and the world. But as you said in your intro, he still declined the invitation. The reason is because even though he's not a religious observant, he's a supporter of not working on Shabbat.
And the performance would, of course, be on the Sabbath, the day of rest.
No, actually, the show itself would be after Shabbat on Saturday, what we call here Motzei Shabbat. But the rehearsal would have been on Shabbat anyways. So the singer declined the opportunity in a very polite way. Omer Adam's publicist told the Jerusalem Post that despite the great honor, he decided not to take part in the event, and that he thanks the organizers from the bottom of his heart from approaching him. It's a great opportunity, and he's declining it.
All right, well, that's, it's respectable. He's standing up for his beliefs, and I'm sure that his fans will understand him.
Yes.
Now, I guess we'll just have to wait and see who's going to be performing instead. For now, thanks for the report, Joy.
Of course, Aaron.
The land of Israel is never in short supply of surprises from ancient history, but a new announcement made last week by Israeli mining company Shefa Yamim is turning more heads than usual. According to the release, a new mineral gemstone, now known as carmeltazite, has just been discovered in the Israeli Carmel region, and until now, the rare ore has only ever been found in space. The International Mineralogical Association last week formally recognized the gem as a new mineral, and it gets its name from the Carmel region from which it was found, as well as its primary elements of titanium, aluminum, and zirconium. Though thanks to the fact that it was found embedded inside sapphires, it's now also been dubbed simply as the Carmel Sapphire. Additionally, the name has already been trademarked by the Israeli government for use in sales. And then finally, aside from the beauty of the gem, the rarity of carmeltazite still takes center stage in the headlines. Shefa Yamim mining CEO Avi Taub told Haaretz that the Carmel sapphire has not been found anywhere else in the world, and mineralogists explain that the reason is due to the perfect storm of conditions necessary to produce it. Carmeltazite was found in sapphires harvested through volcanic rocks around Mount Carmel, and likely formed following massive volcanic events as far back as 250 million years ago. The largest stone found so far was 33.3 carats, or nearly 7 grams. After years of patiently waiting, Central Israelis will be delighted to learn that global furniture and home design giant IKEA is now finally set to open a branch in Tel Aviv later this year. Though this branch, which will be IKEA's 6th in Israel, will only be an outlet primarily focused on kitchenware. Since first opening in Netanya in 2001, the Swedish furniture giant has slowly expanded to Beersheva, Rishon LeZion, Kiryat Ata, and Beit Shemesh, comprising just 5 of the brand's 403 total branches in 49 different countries. But this latest edition is set to be something different. It's being referred to as a pop-up store and will be located in the pavilion area of the Tel Aviv port. Also, according to IKEA officials, it will act as an experiment for smaller formats in order to better compete with other large retailers. In fact, it's going to be just 2,000 square meters in floor space, as opposed to the next smallest store in Rishon LeZion at 34,000 square meters, 17 times the size. Further, the new smaller drafts come after IKEA started closing many stores worldwide, focusing instead again on e-commerce and smaller formats. Here in Israel, though, IKEA is still as strong as ever and growing, with the foundation stone of the 5th store near Beit Shemesh being laid just this past December, and now the Tel Aviv store being officially announced for completion by 2019. And now for our Hebrew word of the day. After discovering a completely new gem dubbed the Carmel Sapphire, it's only fitting that today's word of the day is machzav, meaning a mineral or ore. From amethyst to zircon, there are thousands of different minerals or machzavim across the globe, and many, many more still yet to be discovered across the skies. And they're not all just for looking pretty either. Columbite tantalite, for example, is a machzav or mineral that's widely used in technology and electronics. Feldspar, aka granite, is used in construction mostly, and quartz, which is the most abundant machzav on the planet, is used in everything from scientific instruments to concrete. So remember to respect the rocks around you, because they rock. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be clear to partly cloudy and cool with a low of 53 or 12 degrees Celsius. Then tomorrow you can expect rain all day and a drop in temperatures to a high of around 58 or 14 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.67 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras. Thank you for watching.